Hi there. A little bit after Christmas, and I'm going to try to cover this wing for a lightweight glider. I succeeded in the outer edge over here. With some techniques I don't think will be perfect throughout the rest. So I wanted to try a different one. I've sprayed this entire wing with spray glue, Super 77. I've sprayed one side of this Dollar Tree packing film, or the cello wrap, basically. So I'm going to try to delicately put this wing together, and I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. I see a little black mark, a little pebble or something from outside. All right, so I'm going to start from the outside and work my way in. Now this is contact adhesive, so the goal is to have a contact. I put in a little paper strip with hopes that it would stick to the paper strip, and as I cool it, or as I heat it, again, it's purely just contact. Takes care of most of the issue, but when you heat it up, the cellophane wants to shrink, which is part of what makes it skin tight, kind of like Monaco. So I think I'm going to do this in two pieces, and I'm hoping it's not going to be more of a mess than it's already becoming. But anyway, the heat will take out a lot of some of these wrinkles. I'm going to take it up to the midpoint here because I have not given it enough room. So I'm going to get scissors. All right, I'm back with the scissors. So I kind of wanted you to see, well, this is my first time doing it this way. Like I said, I did the other method, more of a spray, the frame, and I masked off the center rib part. This is not wanting to cut. All right, so here's what I'm going to try and do, because I don't want to get this stuck on the inside. Apparently I grabbed the really terrible scissors. Let me try a different pair. Okay, I'm back. I used these scissors to do a little cutting. It worked really well. So let me work on the outer edge of this here. And I'm going to trim this to come to this, I'll call it outer knuckle. If you were a bird, that would be your wrist, or your outer thumb knuckle there. And then just carefully, oh, I see there's a stick here. Okay, let's see if we can't have this fold over. I'm not so worried about what's in the very center, because very center is going to be covered up. It's going to be inside the plane. So what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to adhere the ribs and hoping that the tape, or the glue and the heat will take care of most of this. And of course, essentially I'm sealing the trailing edge, and I'm hoping that as we heat this, I'm going to trim it. It's going to bring it all taut. I tried this before, it worked great, except on the under camber. Now this wing foil is essentially under cambered. All right, I don't think this is gonna, oh, look, it's sticking pretty well on the double overlap. So, the trailing edge here. This is a wrinkled mess underside. But it looks like I hot glued in a strip here so that way we could catch the undercamber effect and it wouldn't undo itself. Looks like that worked pretty well. All right, I'm going to basically pinch down the outside edges, and I think the last bit of this is to just trim off the exterior. Now I'm expecting that the outside edge, the trailing edge, is going to shrink and kind of curl. Now hopefully it doesn't come up from itself. We'll see. If you wonder why the other side is only up to this knuckle, it's because right here I applied too much heat and it pulled away from the whole thing. It basically, it melted a hole. And then of course, because it's shrinking, it pulled away from everything I was doing. So I cut it off there and decided, well, I'll take care of the rest of it later. Well, now it's later. Okay, last little bit is the centerpiece. The centerpiece to the outside wing. Again, we're aligning it with the trailing edge, being right there. We're going to bring it to the edge of the table. We're going to use the table, as Josh Bixler always likes to say, remember, the table is your friend. Because we're going to use it to adhere this paper. And that helps create that undercamber because there's not quite enough rib for it. And now I'm going to use the table to create that pressure that's required for successful contact adhesive. Now I notice if you only have contact adhesive on one side of stuff, like I do with my plans for the flight test planes, it only adheres moderately well. So it doesn't, oh, I think I might have punctured a hole. I'll figure that out one way or the other. I will probably just put a piece on there, like a patch piece, I suppose. And there's that little wooden skewer that I use to align everything when I place it in the plane. And there we go. There's that straight edge. And again, so as we're going to shrink this, we want to keep it as level as possible and let it shrink so that when we're done. All right. So now, everything's covered. Now technically, I guess I could go outside. The flow characteristics would be terrible. But they would work. So again, I have a tear here. I'm going to try, I guess, and use a little piece of this leftover. I'm going to use a good amount of overlap because this is going to try to tear away. And as it's only one layer, I'll try very hard. And will probably be somewhat successful. Of course, you'll be able to see that. All right. So now I'm able to press firmly. I'm going to make a little snip, a little dart essentially. If you want to use some sewing terms, I'm just going to trim off the back edge. Okay, that's it. Just trim off here. I'll let the natural, okay, there we go. So, I suppose I'm going to leave this available. So this is extra. And I might use that to put together the front piece. Here's the framework, very scant, which is okay. I want it to be very light, especially on the back. Hold on a minute. Okay. Let's see here. So we're going to turn on the heat gun. I've got a little thing so I can direct it very clearly, like no heat here, little heat here, definitely a little heat right in there. So it's a very direct method. So all I'm going to do is just kind of move it around. I'm heating up the wrapping paper, okay? Now what this is going to do is it's going to soften, it's going to start to shrink, and you basically apply heat to the areas you want to tighten. So I see there's a line going this way, a wrinkle, I don't know if you can see it, and so to tighten it up, I kind of put it, oh, there it goes, it's starting to tighten now. You don't want to do too much heat right away. And it's tough because the bottom, okay, we're going to do a little bit more on the top here. Okay, it's starting to, and what you do is it'll kind of shrink, it'll crinkle as the stuff starts to loosen, and then it'll tighten like a drum. Almost very specifically like a drum. Okay, so I'm going to leave that well enough for now and do the underside. Again, I'm trying to work that under camber, so I want it to shrink and tighten, but I don't want it to pull away from the paper. And it looks like we're still maintaining, I got a little bit of stuff on the knuckle, there we go, tightened up real good. Tightened up real good there, real quick too. So it's probably applying a little bit too much heat. Okay, right there. There, see, as I do that, it tightens up. Okay, and I think it's pulled away from the paper. So that's a little bit too much. I'm just trying to angle it so that I don't get the stuff in the center. It looks like I've got the stuff in the center. Okay, well that didn't stick as good as I wanted, but let's work on the top again. Now I've still got a really good airfoil on here. The problem I worry about is that it won't be symmetrical. There we go. That's tight. I can see it tighten up against the ribs, which is wonderful. And oh, that's what happened last time. There's a hole right here. You can see it. Because the edge got too hot and it pulled away from what was going on. And what I could have done is what I did just there, is as it tightens, there we go, good. I could do it a lot slower. Oh, unplugged it. Try it again. Again, keeping a little bit more distance, knowing that the hot air is still flowing over top. As long as I keep moving it around. And you can see it just kind of deforming just a little. Alright, I don't want to do that too much there. I want it to heat up, but I don't want it to overshrink. Okay. That's good. Put it up there, and I think that's about it. That's all I want to do. More on the... Okay, as I attack the edges of the repair, it wants to curl up on me. And that's okay. Suppose. Now what I did is when I was done, I tightened it up. Okay. I think it's about as good as I'm going to get it right now. And while this one section is terrible, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut another section. I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to apply essentially like I did here with the repair. I'm going to do a repair up top. Okay, that's just going to be a little bit of scissor work. I'm going to do it just on the side of the rib. And I'm going to try to keep it right at the tip here, the front of the wing. I know this is real time, so maybe I'll speed it up, maybe I won't. Right now I don't really know how to do that, so chances are I won't. So you get to see my first attempt at this, really. I'll call, or maybe my follow-up attempt. All right. It's not going to be super pretty, like I know some of them can be. What I'm trying to do is pry this up enough where I can grab it and let the seam, it's already snipped. So it's too big for my fingers. So, all right, there we go. I'm going to bring it to the trailing edge. Trailing edge do its work. And now I'm going to cut another piece. It's about twice as big as this. So there we go. Scissors are terrible. Okay, you can look at this if you know a better way. That's amazing. Comment below. Let me know what you did. I know some people use the iron, which is the traditional method for coating planes. They basically get monocoat, which is something very similar. It's a different chemical makeup, but it's similar properties in that with heat, it shrinks. Okay, I've got it adhered to the trailing edge. I'm going to snip it away, and we'll try this part again. Okay. Then I'm firmly pressing this down so that it adheres to as much of the existing stuff as possible. And then I'm going to, that's too much all at once. All right, we're going to do a little bit at a time. I don't know, maybe you can see it as it happens. I'm hoping you can. All I'm doing is moving the heat back and forth across the seam. And as it heats up, it's going to tighten once it reaches that magic spot. Alright, before it gets too far, make sure that the adhesive gets stuck. Okay, there we go. Starting to tighten like a drum. I can see it just in the reflections. There we go. So bring it around the front. Okay. And it wants to curl up. So I'm going to not let it. Okay. One last little bit. On the edge, there's a crease in there I'm not really a big fan of. And that crease can kind of go, oops. It's the problem with leaving it at one thing. Okay, there we go. I think that's about all I can get away with without causing trouble. We'll leave it there. I've got this little piece here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip it out and just as the material is still warm, and we use it to press it down. And I'll tell you what, it's not perfect at all, but it's pretty cool. I'm pretty pleased with it as far as a first, I'll call it a first draft. And this is incredibly light. And this is really just impressively light. Let's see here. I think I'm going to put it, there we go. It's a little bit leaning to the one side. But this plane overall is not, anyway, we'll see how that goes. So here's the one wing. See, I have a little bit of the undercamber effect, which is wonderful. I wanted to get a little bit of that. It didn't truly happen on all the parts, but that's okay. And I'm going to try to cover this section next, and we'll see how that goes. I'm guessing it's going to be kind of a mess. I think what I'm going to do is basically make a small bag and wrap it. All right, that's part 2.